With someone as good as LeBron James, and with someone who has played as many games as LeBron James has, one of the most commonly posed questions about him is what was the best single game performance he ever had? What was the best game performed by one of the best players, so by extension, one of the best performances in league history? So that's the question I'm going to attempt to answer in this video. I have picked 5 performances throughout his career, and I'm going to pinpoint at least which one I believe to be the best of his career. Hey guys, reporting from my car. I had to record this on the road because I'm going on a weekend trip, but this video, the LeBron video, I figured this would be a nice time to promote that tomorrow there is going to be a My League series, episode 1 for the 2009 Cavaliers. I'm doing a throwback series where I try and keep LeBron in Cleveland for the first stint there. Episode 1 is going to be uploaded here. Episode 2 is going to be on my 2K channel. So go ahead and subscribe to that 2K channel. I upload episode 1 for the sake of promoting the series, but the series will continue on that 2K channel. So if you could go subscribe to my 2K channel, which will be linked in the description, that is seriously much appreciated. But with that out of the way, you can get into the video now. Before I continue on this video, if you end up enjoying this video, then please be sure to subscribe for more NBA content. It only makes sense that if you enjoy this video, you would enjoy more videos about the NBA. It's kind of what I do, if you didn't pick up on it. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm, and it's how I feed my editor, Rudy. In no particular order, here are my 5 best LeBron performances, and then I am going to attempt to rank them after. 61 points versus the Charlotte Bobcats, 51-8-8 in Game 1 of the 2018 Finals, 48-9-7 versus the Detroit Pistons in the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals, 45 versus the Celtics in the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, and 41-16-7 and 6 combined steals and blocks in Game 5 versus the Warriors in the 2016 Finals. So those are our top 5 contenders, and I think we can confidently eliminate number 5, which is his performance versus the Charlotte Bobcats. Now, don't get me wrong, this is obviously a very impressive game. It's one of the most efficient 60 pieces that I have ever seen with my own 2 eyes. He had an 80% true shooting percentage in this game, and to add insult to injury, he did it primarily through his jump shot. He hit a career high in threes with 8 of them, and made masked LeBron legendary despite only wearing the mask for a handful of games. It just so happened that this was one of them. So as for why this is his 5th best game, well, it is against the Charlotte Bobcats, and it was a regular season game. Like, he demolished a bad team, and the stats are crazy, and putting up those stats is putting up those stats, but all of these other performances are in the playoffs against elite defenses, and he puts up numbers that aren't much worse. So gotta give all of those the edge over this. Next for me would probably be his Game 5 versus the Warriors in 2016. Even though that series is like the most important one for his legacy, I don't believe any one of the individual performances is the number 1 performance he's had. Don't get me wrong, this was an amazing performance. That stat line is absurd, but I feel like the fact that this was the series that it was is going to carry the overall performance in people's eyes. The actual impressiveness and just pure eye test, I would say these other 3 are better. Now we can get into his top 3 best performances, and these are definitely some of the best performances of all time. Like, holy shit, this is an impressive top 3. I don't know if anyone has a better top 3, frankly. But all that said, his 3rd best performance of all time is when he had 45 points versus the Boston Celtics in the 2012 Conference Finals in Game 6, with the Heat back against the wall as they were trailing 3-2, and it looked like an old man Celtics team was about to keep the Heat out of the finals after LeBron had already disappointed quite a bit in the 2011 Finals. LeBron's legacy was entirely on the line. Losing this game was simply unacceptable for his reputation, and he showed up and dominated. But as impressive as 45 can be, and as impressive as this game was relative to the context, I do feel as though that context actually overshadows the quality of the performance. Don't get me wrong, LeBron was about as perfect as he could be, but he's been more perfect before, as is why he is third here. The Heat had to win the game, and LeBron made that iconic face, but I just think he played basketball better in these other two games. It was just a better story for this one. Now, the fact that it was their backs against the wall, the fact that his legacy was very much on the line, does factor into the level of impressiveness of this, because there was a lot of pressure on him, and he responded better than you could reasonably expect any human being to. But that context can only do so much heavy lifting when there are two performances ahead of it that I believe were just simply more impressive. Now we get to the nitty-gritty, which is the final two performances on this list, and which one is truly the best of his career. Going into the 2018 finals, it was well understood that the Cavaliers stood little chance of even taking a game off of the Warriors. LeBron was in the midst of one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive, playoff run of his career as an individual, but that was expected to be stopped dead in its tracks, and for the most part it kind of was. But at least in game one, the Cavs really scared them. In fact, I'm confident if the Cavs had won this game one, they would have won at least one more game in the series. There was something particularly deflating about the way that they lost this game in particular, but also damn was it a good meme. But the way the Cavs actually managed to scare the Warriors was, well, LeBron. This is going to be a weird metaphor, but it's going to make entirely all the sense in the world necessary. I don't even know if that was good English, but you know how the Hulk just says, you know, sometimes when the situation calls for it, just says, fuck it, Hulk smash. I feel like LeBron applies that same simplicity, and yet it works just fine when he just goes, fuck it, I'm just gonna be LeBron. You know, maybe the odds are stacked against me, maybe my teammates suck, maybe everything in the world is against my favor. Fuck it, I'm LeBron, and I'm gonna go be LeBron and do as much as I can. That's exactly what he did in this game, and this would be the textbook example of him doing that. He said, fuck it, I'm LeBron, on his way to 51-8-8, and very nearly took down a Goliath single-handedly. In 2007, LeBron was in the midst of his first notable playoff run where he would drag a very poor, at the very least on the offensive end, team to the NBA Finals. To actually get to the finals, though, he had to get through the Detroit Pistons. Now, I actually made a video a while ago on why I believed this NBA Finals run to be quite overrated. Like, just the fact that it was LeBron in 2007 is completely overshadowing the fact that he had very little competition to get there. And more importantly, his roster was a lot better than given credit for because they were quite damn good defensively. However, one thing I got wrong in that video is that I didn't really give the Detroit Pistons enough credit for the threat that they were in the conference finals. I do believe the Pistons were actually a better team than the Cavs. LeBron just outdid them. I was doing that disservice because I felt like the loss of Ben Wallace was too significant, but really if you go and look at it, while yes, they were not as good of a defense without Ben Wallace, they were still a very, very, very good one. And there were quite a few offensive benefits from not having a guy who averages 4 points per game in the starting lineup anymore. The Pistons were just 2 wins worse than their 0-4 regular season where they obviously won the championship. So LeBron and the Cavs still were underdogs, and honestly, the Pistons' championship experience and overall volume of talent, rather than being just one individual being a star-level guy, it should have won them that series, but it didn't. The turning point of this series was Game 5. You know how people say that a series isn't really a series until someone has lost on their home floor, and Game 5 is also like the most pivotal game of the series? Well, the Pistons had home court advantage in this one, and again, based on their experience, based on the fact that they were not a much worse roster than when they won a championship, they had every reason to go all the way here. And if they won that game, there is statistically a 70% chance that they were going to the NBA Finals. Actually, I believe it's over 70, like it's like in the 70s. And it looked like that's exactly what was going to happen. LeBron was playing well, but nothing outstanding until the fourth quarter. Going into that fourth quarter, he had just 19 points. And just in case you forgot what I said to introduce this game, just in case you missed it, he had 48 in this game. So just to be clear, he went into the fourth with 19 and he finished the game with 48. To do the math real quick, that is 29 points from the fourth quarter to the end of the second overtime. 4 of those points being a game-tying shot to send it into overtime and a game-winning shot to prevent a third overtime. And maybe the fact that it was actually 29 over the fourth and 2 overtimes makes it less valuable to you. But when you consider that the pace of that era is what it is, the defense of that era is what it is, and the fact that he was the only one scoring, he scored 25 of those 28 points consecutively. He's the only one who scored in either overtime, and he was the only one who scored in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Oh, and he shot 13 for 20 in that span as well, so he was doing it efficiently. Yeah, like fucking hell, that's a carry job. So to me, his 2 best games are between these 2. And what is going to end up being the tiebreaker for me, the reason that I'm going to go with the game that I did, is that the Cavs won the 2007 game that I'm referencing. Whereas even though LeBron was ridiculous in that game 1 versus the Warriors, they ultimately lost. Like, in terms of actual impressiveness of performance, I think these 2 are on the same exact level. But if there's anything that's going to separate them in a ranking, it has to be the loss versus the win. So in order, his 5th best game was 65 against the Hornets. Game 5 versus the Warriors in the 2016 finals was his 4th best game. Game 6 versus the 2012 Celtics was 3rd. Game 1 versus the 2018 Warriors is a close 2nd. And finally, Game 5 versus the Detroit Pistons in 2007 is the best performance of his career. Very odd that his best performance wasn't even close to the most polished version of him, but regardless, you know, he just had a moment. And seriously, if you haven't actually watched that game, because I know a lot of people probably who are watching this video now weren't watching the NBA back then, don't just watch the highlights, watch the full game, because it really shows you how crazy it was when he just flipped that switch and nobody could stop him. Like, it was a routine game. It looked like the Cavs were gonna lose narrowly and LeBron was probably gonna finish with like 30 points. And he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm taking over. I'm LeBron. To see that happen in real time, I mean, not in real time because it's not live, but like as though you were watching it live rather than just watching the highlights, I promise you it's worth it. I could not recommend it more. Anyways, shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.